Begin transmission. Hello, everybody. It is Milton and Chris here for Outer Rim Transmission. We're on episode 170, so we're in the kind of doldrums of September here with not a lot of news. So we're gonna stretch things out as much as we can tonight because we have a lot of rumors, a lot of reports going around. Some of it is pretty much likely stuff that we already knew about, like The Mandalorian probably not going to get a season 4. I think we all assume that, and some other random stuff. But the main thing is some video game news with the overall performance with the latest Star Wars game, Star Wars Outlaws, and something about the budget about the acolytes. So we really have basically two topics we're going to dive into. But first off, how you doing, Milton?
I'm good, man. I'm happy to be back on the show. Life has been crazy the past couple weeks, but I'm always excited to, talk Star Wars, talk about, life with you guys and catching up. So I'm good. Glad to be back and ready to get into the topics.
Heck yeah, yeah. Ben really wanted to make it tonight, but he is at a family gathering. So hopefully next week we'll have every one of us in the studio, so to speak, through cyberspace. But yeah, as far as my week in Star Wars, last night I got together. I usually get together like once a month to go to the game store, play some tabletop games, and I got some Star Wars Legion games in. With the Separatist Alliance, I used an army consisting of Grievous, of Cad Bane, of 2 battle droid units and droid decos, and I barely squeezed one out with the win over the Imperials Empire with General Veer. So it's just a fun thing. We were talking about, oh yeah, is this canon? Like, yeah, it actually kind of could be, because I mean, how many stories have we got in Star Wars where somebody's reactivated a bunch of battle droids? Like, we've seen it in Star Wars Rebels, we've seen it in a bunch of various other things with, I mean, you look at Star Wars Jedi Survivor, you're fighting against battle droids like 50% of the time. It's not that hard to think about. Maybe somebody gets something with Grievous and reanimates Grievous or something like that. I mean, we got that whole episode with the Clone Wars where it's like Grievous's lair and there's like weird stuff all in there. So, it was just a fun kind of exercise in head canon, and of like, oh yeah, let's make this imaginary battle with these two forces going head to head. So
So for that stuff, like, where do you go to do that?
So we go to this game called the War Gamers Guild. It's in Yardville, New Jersey. So they play a
Okay.
whole bunch of other stuff. And when I got there yesterday at 2:30, there was 2 tournaments actually going on. There was a tournament going on with Star Wars Unlimited, the card game I keep you guys updated on, and Star Wars Shatterpoint, another game I also used to play. I still play it. I just haven't played it in like literally a year. But yeah, it's just a dedicated spot where people hang out. They're open 6 days a week. They're only closed on Sundays. And you just, they have a Discord. Hey, you guys want to, multiple channels in there. Hey, who wants to get a game of Star Wars Legion or Warhammer 40K or Dungeons and Dragons? They play it all over at that place. So yeah, it's a cool spot. And, they sell everything there. It's a local shop. So it's, whenever I pre-order something, I pre-order through them to kind of keep the lights on, so to speak, because it's a nice place, and that there's some places out there that charge money to play games, like $5 or $10 when you go into them. This place, I'm really cool with the owner, and there's never been any charge at it, besides
Hmm.
tournament play or something, which is when you could actually win stuff, prizes, money, credit, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's cool. I mean, it's crazy because in my Hamilton area, there's like 3 or 4 of these kind of places, and there's actually one opening up in the mall in like the next couple weeks, which is another 10 minutes away. So it's, at least over here, it's kind of been booming. It's kind of crazy, but it's fun because I play both the virtual stuff and the tangible tabletop stuff, and it's a good place to do it.
Nice. Yeah, I've never been a part of something like that. I mean, that kind of reminds me of, and maybe I'm completely wrong, but it kind of reminds me of like the whole Dungeons and Dragons setup.
Yep.
Is that what it's kind of like?
Yeah, I mean, you walk into the place, they have several tables, like several tables, lots of chairs. So they have their terrain there if you want to put terrain up. I usually bring my own because I have like the X-Wings and different buildings that are all Star Warsified official stuff, ATSTs that are downed in pieces and stuff like that. And yeah, but it's just, it's cool, it's casual. And Gonna try to do it more this year, but we'll see what happens. I'm always busy trying to do different things. So, but every once in a while, it's a fun little thing to do on the weekend, especially yesterday and today. And it's been raining here, so it's just really not much else to do besides game, watch TV, or do something like that right now.
Right. No, no, I feel you. That's pretty cool, man. So, I mean, my week in Star Wars, honestly, it has been YouTube related.
Hmm.
Um, so I mean, I'm sure you've watched the Star Wars Theory channel.
Oh yeah, from time to
So
time.
yeah. So and there's times where like I'll catch an episode or like whatever interesting he posts, I might get my interest peaked. But he and you mentioned, about Mando season 4 potentially, but so this reminded me of a show that he was talking about. So he talked about Obi-Wan and like, the writer behind it who was going to make it into a film originally. And he talked about what his idea was and what he pitched for it to be a trilogy of a film. But he and what we I didn't realize what the reason why they turned it into a series was because I think the writer was Stephen Beatty or something, but he said they had it set up for a trilogy for a film, but then like Solo underperformed, and so I guess Disney and Lucasfilm kind of became panic mode and decided to turn it into like a series. And after he described what was in the movie, I'm thinking, wait, we should have got a trilogy. Like this would have been so much better for a trilogy. And I was like, the whole time driving to work, I'm listening to this, and I'm like, what the hell? Why didn't we get this like in the show? But why didn't we get this into a movie? This would have been a perfect trilogy to tell that story for for that 19-year period. And it's like, really? But we'll never know, but it just goes to show like how these studios and these producers panic themselves and they tend to get in their own way sometimes, thinking that they're doing the right thing by the project and by like the fans.
Oh wow, I actually didn't hear about any of this. That's really
Yeah, so
interesting.
his name is Stephen Beatty. He's the original writer that they brought in to do the film, and what he talked about was he's like pretty much the first movie would have been like Obi-Wan would have eventually left Tatooine. But he said, like Rex was going to be in the movie,
Oh.
Reva, Vader, um, Luke was going to be in it. But like the first appearance with Luke would have been like he would have been 4 years old, and he would have
Hmm.
been trying to like train Luke. But then he'd have been seeing like dark side flashes of him, and then Obi Wan he would have realized he's like, hey, like we're not doing it right. He's like, we're pretty much going to make this kid into a Sith the way we're
Oh.
going. So he had to take a step back. And a lot of it had to do, like, I think, with the first movie was like his guilt as like allowing this to happen with Anakin and all this other stuff, and it was just would have been a cool evolution of the character and how we went from General Kenobi to
Mm-hmm.
to Obi-Wan in the desert, but then eventually into that transition of Ben Kenobi.
Yeah, Star Wars just loves trilogies. I mean, you think of trilogies, you
Hmm.
think of Lord of the Rings, you think of Star Wars, and you go back to even Solo. I think that was originally going to be penned as like a trilogy as well, and that fell through.
Yeah.
So have looking in the like, the alternate universe, which we often do on this podcast, of like what could have been. It could have had a trilogy of Han Solo movies. It could have had a trilogy of Obi-Wan movies. And think about that time period. They're both around
Hmm.
the same time period, so we would have so much of this content, like in the dark times, in movie format. That would have
I agree.
been something.
Right, and I think well, and he brings up a good point because he said like I think Star Wars theory is like, well, why did they turn it into a show? And he explained like the underperformance of Solo. He's like, well, also the studio felt that the fans wouldn't want to see a film series of characters that that would have survived. And I'm thinking like that's not necessarily true. Like if
Hmm.
you tell a good story, we're going to watch it. Look at there's so many series or characters that we've seen in like the original films that they were made back when they were made, and then a series or a show was made or like like we will like a film series if it's good. And I
Mm-hmm.
think with Obi-Wan Kenobi, we still had Ewan McGregor who's still in his prime of an as an actor and
Mm-hmm.
physically who can do a lot of his stunts and whatever. You're telling me we wouldn't have enjoyed that trilogy? Like I'd have been there day one.
Yeah, seriously, it's really it's crazy what's happening. We're gonna get into this more as well as we talk about the topics today of like what deserves to be a series, what deserves to be a movie, and I don't even know if Disney
Right.
Lucasfilm understands that. It's a hard thing to grasp. It's like, okay, the industry is changing. Streaming is not so powerful. Let's go back to movies. Movies can make money. What sort of things would work better as a series than a movie? And I think, yeah, a lot of us say now you have edits on YouTube for the Obi-Wan movie, essentially. And for a lot of people, the way that whoever did this, whatever version, says like this is actually better than the Disney Plus version. Like the way they
Right.
cut things out, I
Yeah.
guess the way it's the cut in different things, whoever edited edits it. But
Right. I mean, and again, I think a lot of the times we all can agree with this. Like the studio gets in their own way, and look, these people are way smarter than any of us. I mean, let's keep it honest. However, I think they, instead of them actually overthinking it, which they tend to do, just simplify it and just tell the best story that you can. Like, don't try to oversimplify it. Just really take your time. Like, don't rush it. And I think that's the problem in a lot of these things when we get these
mm,
series. Like, I think they tend to want to, let's get the product out so quickly because fans want it, but don't like. But then you rush it and you miss things that don't make any sense, and then you wonder why the ratings happen. I mean, look at Acolyte. I mean, I don't. Again, Acolyte had its issues, but it wasn't horrifically bad. But I think they could have done things a little bit differently. I think if they would have structured the episodes better, they would have taken more time when it comes to storyline and how it interconnected. And if you want to tell a season two, make season one like the strongest you can, so you can get to a season two.
I look at all right. This is the one example that's the most recent is Rings of Power, the prequel to Lord of the Rings, and
Okay, yeah.
season one. Have you watched it at all, or you plan on it?
No, I've heard mixed reviews about it, but people have told me that there are some good things about it.
Yeah, so season one was very much like Acolyte in a way, where like some things I really like, some things I could have done without. And then, but
Hmm.
Amazon, and first of all, like, look, Amazon has the belief and the trust that they're going to stick to their guns. Granted, they've sunk like so much money into it already, just with the rights that I think they were going to do it regardless of the critical ratings of it. But they put out season two, and we have one episode left, and it is completely course corrected the entire series. Like, I actually think it's a great series now, whereas before I was wishy washy on it because of how good season
Hmm.
two is. Season two is everything that season one should have been. It's like what I say is season one walked so season two could run, essentially. Like, they are really diving in. All the exposition's already done. Season two, it's like go, 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 go. And it's like, yes, this is exactly what needed to happen. We don't see a lot of success stories like that because oftentimes, if something doesn't do good enough, case in point, Acolyte, they don't even get a second chance anymore. There's not even a second
Right.
chance that's given. So it's interesting there, right? So looking at those two different studios and what their beliefs are, Amazon versus Disney. It's like, dang it! In this case of Acolyte, too bad it wasn't like Rings of Power. We could have maybe in another universe again gotten an amazing season two that held up season one. I don't know. I mean, the way the things were going,
Yeah.
there
Well,
was
I mean,
potential.
right. Well, I think you bring up a good point. I think, like you said, Amazon was stuck in, hey, we're going to make this work. Even I'm sure after they heard from season one and how it didn't wasn't universally loved from what you're telling me, they course corrected it. Like that's the thing to do, and that's what a good studio does. Like
Hmm.
that's why I wouldn't have minded. And I think I've said it before. If Acolyte would get a season two, I wouldn't mind it because I
Yep.
feel like they'd be like, okay, we heard from season one people's and their complaints about what they wanted, and I think they could have course corrected. And again, my general complaint has always been I've been nothing but consistent. If you do any type of limited series, and most of the time they're about 6 to 8 episodes,
Hmm.
every episode has to count for something.
Yeah.
And I think you look at shows like The Boys,
Hmm.
look at shows like Reacher, look at shows like Invincible. And again, all these are from Amazon Prime. They all do a good job. Those shows are very
Yeah.
consistent. You look at shows on Peacock with, Bel Air,
Hmm.
I guess the Chucky series. Like these shows that are successful, they're a quote unquote limited series or episodes. They're consistently good because their episodes don't waste time.
Rest in
So I
peace,
don't feel like
Chucky. It just got
Yeah,
canceled like 2 days ago.
I did. I know. I did see that. However, it was around for what, 3 seasons,
Yeah,
whatever it was, 4 seasons. But again, though, like it lasted more than one,
yeah,
and that should tell you something. Like
yeah.
the audience wanted it. The story must have been something decent. Because again, if it gets stopped after one season, something wasn't right. Something wasn't
Mm.
consistent. It wasn't landing with the audience.
And somebody out on the interweb said something about this, and I wish I can give them credit, but I don't have it at my fingertips at the moment. Like people are saying, like, hey, if Acolyte was getting a season two, they would have announced it like as season one was airing before it was finished or after. And I'm thinking
Hmm.
like that brings up a whole nother can of worms. Like, did Disney send this one out to die? Did they already had the decision before it even came out that it wasn't gonna get renewed? Like that's what I'm very curious about. Of like, okay, we know Disney was transferring now to movies. Were they even trying to
Right.
give this a try even before they heard the fans? I don't know how late in development that was, but
Oh,
you know.
if that's the case, then that's a shame on Disney because then you set up your show to fail.
Mm-hmm.
Like you set up your show and your team, and you used to let the audience down.
Mm.
I mean, like how do you set the last scene or the post credit scene of that show as a Yoda reference, or you see Yoda's behind, and it's like, wait a minute, like now we're all like, wait, what? Like now they're bringing Yoda in the fold. What does that look like?
Yeah.
Like you tease Darth Plagueis. What does that look like? Like, come on, like Disney, you knew better. If that's the
Mm.
case, then why even do the show? If you,
Yeah.
'cause here's the thing: these episodes were done months before the finale was aired. Probably 6 months it was done. So
Mm-hmm.
you're telling me Kathleen Kennedy and all those guys didn't think, well, we could see Plagueis and Yoda in last episode. Fans are gonna think season two is gonna be
True.
around.
True.
So like, so you're telling me 6 months ago we're like, well, the hell with it. Like don't do that.
Mm.
Don't that when you play games like that, that's when you lose the trust of the fans.
Mm.
And honestly, we've talked about this before. We've always said, some of the best shows aren't created by fans, but some of the best shows are also created by fans or written by fans. And in this case, whether it's with Acolyte, Mandalorian, well, Mandalorian's created by fans,
Oh yeah.
Filoni and Favreau,
Mm-hmm.
and it's awesome. But it's like in this case, lately the projects coming out from Lucasfilm and Star Wars have not been by fans, and it's shown. And maybe you need to bring in writers who actually care about the property, who love
Mm-hmm.
the property, and can still be objective in writing this and saying, "Hey, I know the pulse of the Star Wars community."
That is true. That is true, right? It's a slippery slope where it's like you got things like Rogue
It is.
One and Andor, where you have that creative out there, Tony Gilroy,
Hmm.
who has famously come out and said on actual recording, like I'm not a Star Wars fan. Like he literally says that.
Right.
Like he's not a Star Wars fan, which is a cool lens to also take. You go from one extreme where sometimes if somebody's like
Absolutely.
two and ahead of Star Wars, like they keep putting in all these references and they keep calling back to the same old tropes we go through time and time again, which makes it unoriginal. But then you have somebody like Gilroy who just is like, oh, this is a gritty, dark Star Wars that I know a lot of the adult fans have wanted for a while. And this is why, because this guy is able to compartmentalize himself out of the Star Wars element and
Mhm.
inject like current type topics into a Star Wars show because that's where the angle he's coming from. So there's a
Yeah.
lot.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
glad you brought that up because you're right. I think you look at the two extremes. Like, look, and people and I don't like when people actually do this part when they're like, well, it's all Tony Gilroy. Gareth Edwards was a big part of that movie also.
Yep.
Like he was the original guy. So let's keep giving him credit. Like he put that film together. They brought in Tony to clean it up, add his flair, and I mean that worked great. Look at Andor. Andor. Ben doesn't like that show. You and I tend to like that show. You like it probably more than I do, but it's a good show, and you can clearly see that you need for this type of property, this character, this story. A fan wouldn't have handled it the best. I agree with that because you have to take a step back, look at it as a non-objective fan, and say, okay, what was the Empire like with this particular part of the rebellion? Because I think if you and I would have wrote that, we'd have been fan service heavy. I'll just be honest, that would be me. But I think for a character like Obi-Wan Kenobi, like Boba Fett, like all those, you need a fan who can also be objective because he or she will know. Like Sam Witwer, I think could have wrote us a really good Mandalorian story.
Mm.
He's a fan, but he knows how to write. He knows how to be objective. He knows what's not to put in it, what to put in it. I think he could have been objective enough because he says it in his interviews. You can hear it in his interviews. You can hear it how he communicates about
Oh
the
yeah.
lore of Star Wars. So I mean, even when you see these, right? I mean, go to these people online, dude. I'm telling you, you're telling me Lucasfilm and Kathleen Kennedy aren't seeing stuff on YouTube. Be like, man, who the hell wrote that story like that? We got to talk to that person. What were they
Yeah.
thinking? Again, I still think they need to get the Prism people from YouTube and say, "Hey, what did you guys do for your Obi-Wan trilogy like series? It looks awesome. Like, I'm curious why you wrote this and put this in there. Like, just it's okay to pick apart some of the fans' theories and say, hey, this may work for an actual like feature.
Yeah. Do
But
you?
hey, it is what it is.
I mean, that's the thing, right? Is we don't really hear a lot about fan like integration with Star Wars. Unfortunately, the
Mm-hmm.
two things that come to mind are for the Mandalorian season one finale, they tapped a bunch of 501st active members to be on set
Right.
and be a part of the actual sequence, which was so cool. It's like about darn time those guys get their accolades. You know, they're there for charity, but it's cool to see
Absolutely.
them recognized to do all the hard work and be a part of the community and doing a good thing out there for people. But that, and then you go but way back, also Mandalorian connected. I guess maybe Favreau and Filoni have a thing for the fans, I guess, in a certain way, which is cool. But the guy that was doing the deep fake stuff for one of his videos, they ended up
Yes.
getting him to like work on Book of Boba Fett with Luke or something like that, didn't they?
Yeah. It was. I think it was the Luke episode, and or was that Mandalorian? It was one. Yeah, it was around that time. So yes, it's like the Shamook guy or Shamokin
Yeah,
or
that's
no,
right.
that's
Yeah,
Shamokin.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Chinook or something. Yeah, you're right because he it looked great. Like he was
Mm-hmm.
his because he was doing trailers and he's like, well, I'm going to clean these deep fakes up and put like the character's face. Like I think he deep faked the Han Solo trailer and other stuff, and it's like, oh yeah, that looks pretty dope. But I like that. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's you recognizing talent. And honestly, like think if I was in that position, if I'm Kathleen, whomever, I'm thinking, oh my god, you got these young people who are on YouTube trying to be artists. Let's try to
Mm-hmm.
recruit them. Let's try to help them get better. Like, let's use their creative expertise already, but let's help expand their palette too because hey, they could be a good asset to the company.
Mm-hmm.
Real leadership will recognize that it's okay to bring in different assets to strengthen, the IP. And I think a lot of these writers out there who are on YouTube making these fan films can be great assets to the property. Like who would be like, well, I would maybe do that, but this is why I would do it this way. And then again, bounce ideas. Like you don't have to take their idea 100%. Not everything's gonna work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Very
But that's just
true.
me.
Very true. Very true. Oh, great little opening discussion here, starting off episode 170. So, getting into our housekeeping, we are live most Sundays at 7 p.m. Eastern. I know lately we have not been super consistent, but at least we have been giving you guys weekly content in the meantime. So, you always expect some kind of video to go live on Sunday at some point, whether it's live or pre recorded. We also are available to listen in audio format on any of your streaming services, whether it be Spotify or Apple. Just search Outer Rim Transmission. Getting into the releases this week, we have Ahsoka issue number 3. If you've watched the episode, then you've read the comic, and vice versa. We also have what I consider, now that I reviewed it, one of the best High Republic books so far. I would go as far as to say this is maybe the top 5, and one day I'll probably do a list when it's all said and done of the High Republic everything. This is top 5 High Republic anything. This is a great story about discovering more of the origins of the Nameless and the Blight and some of the biggest things that are pushing forward the overall story of this entire initiative. So, a lot of answers, but also a lot of heartbreak and a lot of really badass, awesome Star Wars lightsaber action, Master of the Apprentice stuff going on in this book. So, can't recommend it enough. Again, my review for Tears of the Nameless, written by George Mann, is on the channel now. And that basically brings us to two stories today. We have Real Ben Maynard, one of our co-hosts, is chiming in. Hello there. Hope you guys have a good show tonight. Can't wait to be back next week. Yeah, us too, man. We'll see you next week. Getting into our story, we're going to keep things with the Acolyte. So this came to us from Forbes. So as I think Ben might have mentioned this at some point, that somehow we had gotten word that the budget for the Acolyte at one point in time was around $180 million.
Mm.
Well, Forbes updated us saying, they had a strict budget that they felt happy about essentially going into the production. But by the end of the production, they found themselves going way over to the point where it is basically quoted as they spent $231 million on the
Wow,
production of the Acolyte, which is just about $250 million. Yeah, go
that's
ahead.
crazy.
Let's hear your reaction, Milton.
Okay, first of all, how the hell did they get that budget and Obi-Wan Kenobi didn't? That like make that make sense. One, two, what were they spending that money on? Because there weren't really many planets or a significant amount of CGI that I was seeing where I was like, oh, they created Coruscant, or hey, they recreated Naboo, or they went to Cato Namordia, or they went to Mustafar, or they went to Genosis. You like, I wasn't seeing these exotic planets. Were you, Chris?
Nah, I certainly wasn't. I certainly
I was
wasn't.
seeing a
They
lot of
looked pretty
like
same.
forests,
Yeah, it was.
oceans, like maybe a sand here or there. Like a lot of interior shots of like ships. I was like, so what were they using that money for? Please explain that.
Ha! So they actually have a whole bill that somebody got their hands on. Now, granted, they
Yeah,
filmed
I want to
this.
see that. Was it on catering? How much food were they eating?
So on Forbes, they have this information readily available for anybody to look at it, and it was filmed in Europe. I think specifically England. I think this is pounds. If not, it could be euros. So it's hard for me to even say what it is because it's not in dollars. So that you convert it at the end, it comes to $231 million. But they have
That's
like
insane.
they have stuff here. It's like miscellaneous income, wages and salaries is like 21 million euros or something. Something about social security costs is another 2 million. Then there's pension cost. Like there's a whole bunch of stuff that is
Yeah.
going into this thing. It's insane. But if you look specifically at production costs, it's
Mhm.
147 million euros or pounds, whatever it is.
Okay, so fine. So I understand, like, paying actors and production crew, and I get that. Like, and I'm sure that's a small. I won't say a small piece. Oh yeah, I'll say it's a small piece because there was no high level actor on that show unless it was Carrie Ann Moss. She's the only
Hmm.
one that I knew that probably demanded a higher salary. I would guess because she's probably out of that whole crew, her and the guy that plays Soul were probably the two highest paid actors I would
Hmm.
assume, or because of their demand, the resume, the work. I get that. That will make sense to me. But for their budget to be 140 million, I guess just for production, you have that other almost 200 million for whatever. Like that'll make no sense to me because again, what else were they shooting or where were they shooting? London. They've been working in London for 40 years. You're telling me they don't got a special rate when it comes to taxes and understanding Pinewood Studios or various other studios in London. You're telling me that Disney Lucasfilm don't understand how to manage their money better or understand what makes a good production budget. You know what I'm saying? Like that don't that's something so something's off to me. For 200 plus million for a show,
Yeah.
like that's a movie budget.
That's what I'm actually gonna get at now is this could have just been a darn movie, couldn't it? At that
It
point.
could have. Like I mean, look, because I remember even with Andor, and I'm sure Ben could agree with us because again, we thought that show was shot very cinematically.
Mm.
It looked like a film, even though it was a series. I understand if that budget was 200 something million because the interior shots were gorgeous, the exterior shots were gorgeous. They were shooting the Coruscant planets. They were doing other stuff like the ships. That look, and you can definitely tell that was a higher budget. And the actors in it were all actors that were demand salaries, like the Diego Luna character. Who's the guy that plays who played the general, the guy who was in the shadows that was creating the rebellion?
Skull and
You know what I'm talking
Skarsgård.
about. Yeah, he's a hell of an actor. the mother of Andor. She's a hell of a, so like these people deserve those salaries. I get that. Oh, even old girl that played who plays the senator or Mon Mothma. Like she's been in Star Wars for a minute, and her salary's probably a good chunk of change. I get that. This particular show makes no sense to me to get that budget, and then you got Obi-Wan freaking Kenobi. Hell, even freaking Boba Fett, which I don't know his budget, but I'm sure it was less than this one.
Hmm.
Like that makes no like come on, guys. Like this is where Lucasfilm and Kathleen Kennedy and Disney failed the fans. You set that show up to fail with that type of budget when you don't utilize the assets that you have in front of you. It's like, here's money, go play around the sandbox, come back when you're ready. Like, no, we need better oversight with that because clearly it was a waste of resources.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, you look at the differences. Like, okay, Obi-Wan and the other shows were filmed Manhattan Beach or wherever they do like the volume in
Mm-hmm.
LA area over there. I think it was Andor was also filmed in the UK. So I'm thinking like, oh, it's just the UK is like super expensive to film in or something. But then it's like, yeah, exactly. Nobody ever told anything about Andor being like super costly. So that's where I'm just like,
Yeah,
what fell through? Like what slipped
yeah.
between
And
the
here's the thing:
cracks with the
a
budget?
lot
I
of
mean,
Hollywood production takes place in London.
hmm.
I mean, the Batman was filmed in London. I think
Oh,
most of the Batman movies are filmed in London, or like
whoa.
it's London, L.A., Chicago, some parts of Pittsburgh. I mean, all the Batman movies in general all have had their hands in L.A., London.
What
Look at
about
all of them, literally from 1989 till now. All those films have always been shot in London. No,
so?
that's a huge franchise. So the studios understand how to work with the London crews in production and taxes and government to understand tax breaks, cost, that type of thing. That to me, this is inexcusable.
Mm, okay, I'm reading.
I
I'm
mean, the
reading this.
Batman IP, but I say the Batman IP is just as big as the Star Wars IP.
Mm, for sure. So, quoting here from the Forbes, the benefit from the UK government's audiovisual expenditure credit, which gives studios a cash reimbursement of up to 25.5% of the money they spend in the country. So they do get
Mm,
like a big ass tax break, which is why they do a lot of the stuff over here.
exactly.
And to
And I
qualify for
believe
the
we get a
re
tax
yeah.
break in Australia too, in New Zealand,
Mm-hmm.
in Canada. So we like these companies know how to work in these countries. That's why it's like, why are we wasting money then?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But like looking at the alternate form, right? If you would have had this movie in the theaters, obviously they would have actually probably made a good chunk of change. That's the thing. I think
Yeah,
people, with a series, okay, you don't have to spend money necessarily to watch it other than their subscription costs for just 1 month or borrowing your friend's password or something. But I mean, yeah, it's a hard exercise to get through figuring this out.
right. Well, I think a lot of it comes down to like to make that money back when it comes to streaming. A lot of it comes to rewatchability. A lot of it comes to like uh, um, yeah, rewatchability. When it comes to that stuff, because again, like they track this. I mean, it's advertisers that ties into people that watch certain elements of shows. So like that goes back to strong story. If you're telling a good strong story, I'm gonna always come back and watch it. I guarantee you, the Disney Plus is strongest shows that are watched or movies that are watched on their network when it comes to Star Wars with the prequels and the original trilogy, and I guarantee they get a lot of revenue from people putting eyes on those old movies. Guarantee you that. So right there should tell you, or if you write a good show or a movie and it's rewatchable, they can use those analytics when it comes to selling merchandising and stuff to these corporate sponsorships to say, hey, people 85% of our audience is watching the original trilogy. So
Hmm.
if people who are paying for the subscription with commercials, they're going to see the advertisements. You know what I'm saying? I mean, look at WWE. That's a
Hmm.
$1 billion industry. They make a lot of their money off of advertising. I'm rewatching old WrestleManias from 1987, and I have it. I think I pay the subscriptions like $5-6 a month, something or whatever it is, and I get the advertisements in between, like the 30-minute breaks, and it's like Okay, oh, that's Snickers. Oh, boom! I guarantee you, Snickers paid a shit ton of money to WWE, and that's a huge IP as well with Star Wars. So it's like that's how you get that money back to recoup of getting those big budgets. It's like, bro, like something don't make no sense here. Like it's freaking weird, but whatever. I mean, I don't know. They must be doing something better than they must be doing something right or something. I don't know.
Here we go. We got the co-host from the ether speaking out. Ben saying, "Here's how they could easily get the money back. Put the shows back onto network television and do not put them on streaming for several months. Do it kind of like the old school days." Yeah, that's what I don't know if they're willing of taking their stuff off of the streaming to do that, but I mean,
Well,
they
no, but here's the thing. Though. Like, I don't know, man. Because here's the thing. Ben's got a point there. So all the Star Wars movies are still on TNT. They got TNT,
Mhm.
TBS. Like, there's always a Star Wars marathon on TNT, TBS. How much money do you think TNT, TBS, which is Turner Network, is paying Star Wars to get those rights to put them on there for like, put on their shows for 5 months or for 5 years? You know what I'm saying? That's probably a crap ton of money. FX is another network that pays for the Marvel movies on their networks.
Wait,
I
but
guarantee you,
FX is owned
FX,
by
which is
Disney now,
Fox or whatever.
I think, right? Yeah.
What's up?
The only difference with that one is FX
Oh,
is actually owned by
Hulu.
Disney now.
Well, FX and Hulu is all like under that umbrella. But what I'm
Yeah,
saying is, even before that, they were paying a whole bunch of money to get those rights for 5 years. Like, I kind of like that old school model a little bit, Like, I know for a fact that what was it? Not it wasn't ABC, HLN. Again, I don't know who owns that, but like they put those movies on there too. Like it can work, man.
yeah. Um, Going back, I know this is not Star Wars related, but I actually was watching it and thinking about this the other day. So you're saying that Batman, we're going for a quick aside, the Batman was never filmed in Brooklyn or Manhattan? Because in the Batman, dude, I feel like I've walked through some of those streets. I've been on the subway and it
So
looks exactly like
I'm
that. I'm
not.
like,
I will. I'm pretty sure, and Ben's watching, so he can probably look it up quicker than we can. I'm pretty sure the majority, well, history, the majority of those movies, of all of them, have always been shot in London, some way, shape, or form.
wow,
Okay, so every single movie for the Batmans. Now, the most recent one, I'm pretty sure they shot the majority of that in London.
wow.
Um, Batman. I'm looking up on my phone right now because I'm pretty sure, like, that came out 2022. That
Yep,
movie came out.
yep.
Filming locations. I'm pretty sure the majority of that was like in London, and like
Wow.
obviously studios or they have the studio set up, whatever. But yeah, it's Liverpool, London, Glasgow, Scotland, London, England, Scotland, Chicago, Illinois. Like, yeah,
That's
like the majority
so
of that movie shot in London, dude.
That's so ironic because Gotham is basically modeled after New York City. And yet that's the one place that they don't
Exactly.
even
Because,
film
because
it.
I mean, the last shot looks like it's Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
Like, it looks like it's Madison Square Garden.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's like that's why I keep telling people like these IPs know what they're doing. like don't tell me like oh we're getting screwed. That's why I'm no stop it. I don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
Literally every Batman film always is shot in London, and then obviously there's pieces shot in the States. The most recent is obviously looking at um the Nolan trilogy where they shot in Chicago,
Mm.
Pittsburgh, and parts of Los Angeles. I think in Dark Knight Rises, the majority of that film, they use a lot of Pittsburgh for the last,
Yep.
third.
I wonder where
So
they shot the penguin then. I'm because
I'm
even
curious
that
about the way
looks
they shot
like
that.
New Jersey. That looks like it's in Newark and stuff, which makes perfect sense
Yeah.
because this is so much like The Sopranos from the idea of like, okay, this is
So
like
what's funny
gangster
about that?
mobster stuff, you know?
Right, right. Yeah, I know this is a Star Wars podcast, guys. We're going into a little bit of Batman lore in here. In Star Wars, Batman and Superman, so you got Gotham and Metropolis is supposed to be. I think New York is supposed to be Gotham or Camden. Camden and New York are
Uh,
supposed to be like Gotham represented or whatever. And I think Delaware. What's the big city in Delaware?
oh shoot.
Um, yeah, but like because they're like they're
Wilmington,
they're they're far
Wilmington,
apart.
right?
Like in Wilmington, so like Metropolis is supposed to be like maybe like parts of like Brooklyn or not Brooklyn, Manhattan, but
Yeah.
like parts of Delaware because they're separated by like the bay. So like it's supposed to be like that. So Newark and like Camden was always represent like Gotham in some way, shape, or form because of like that. But yeah, that's why you probably think of Newark.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But yeah,
And Newark is well, Camden, Newark, they're rougher places for sure. So that's Gotham
yeah,
for you.
yeah.
All
So
right, there you
like
go. There goes our little Batman. That's what's on my brain. Honestly, more than Star Wars right now with how good this Penguin series is. Which have you watched the first
yeah.
episode?
No, I haven't watched the. I'm waiting until they all come out.
Okay. Well, that's gonna be a good binge
Yes,
then.
I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewatch the Batman
You need to.
and then
You need
go
to.
back and watch.
It literally has like a couple frames from Batman, like where it picks up with the Penguin. Because I thought it was a prequel, but it
Right.
actually is a continuation.
No, it's a sequel.
It's a
It takes
sequel.
place like they said like a yeah. It's like a week after the
Yeah,
Batman or something.
exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, Batman talk is over for the day. We got one more Star Wars story, and that is our title. So Star Wars Outlaws underperforms according to Ubisoft, and that causes a bunch of changes at Ubisoft with their other franchises and everything else. So basically, Star Wars Outlaws came out. I gave the game a 7 out of 10. And I think that's a pretty good score for it. I mean, I'm probably more on like a 7.5 range, but I'm giving it a 7 out of 10, right? So it's got its fun parts about it, but I can see why a lot of people just didn't chomp at the bit to buy it right away. Because it is not necessarily doing anything new or revolutionary. It's an open world fun game where you're doing missions and you're a scoundrel. It gives you exactly what you want, but it doesn't revolutionize anything. And when there's so many other games out there that are vying for your time and money, it is going to be really hard to set itself aside from other things that came out even as early as this year and whatnot. But basically what happened is Ubisoft has a bad reputation. They're the developers that make Assassin's Creed and Watch Dogs and Far Cry, and people have a bad knack for Ubisoft because they tend to monetize the heck out of their games. And what I mean by that is, like, if you look at Assassin's Creed, like the last couple ones, Valhalla, Odyssey, and all them, they put in like all these season pass things, these DLCs, different things like that. Oh, you could spend money to get your guy more experience faster, to level up faster if you just spend another $10. Like there's like a bunch of like weird stuff like that in the games. I don't partake in it. I just play the game, the base game, and enjoy it. But a lot of people seen that when Outlaws shot themselves in the foot before the game even came out, kind of like Battlefront 2 did, where they're like showing off all the season pass stuff. Oh, pay $129 for this edition of the game, but blah, blah, blah. So people already are up in arms about that, saying, oh my gosh, they have a season pass. That's kind of like a derogatory thing. Now, if you see season pass, it's like, oh no, they're going to get more money from me. So they're already fighting an uphill battle because they put out all this stuff. Then the game comes out, and you're gonna have the scum of the internet saying like, oh, this game has a female character lead. I don't want this. That same BS stuff that people say. So you're gonna have people resistant, a very small minority probably resistant against that. But then this monetization stuff, and then we found out there's some bugs with the game. I had no problem with bugs on PC, but people had issues with these stealth missions where like you automatically fail the mission and have to start over, and you keep doing it, and it's like not easy to tell when people can see you, so you're getting caught all the time, and it's like the first like maybe 15-20 minutes of the game, so people are getting mad about that. So basically it's like all these little issues that don't necessarily mean it's a horrible game. But again, when people are
Right.
trying to save money, they decide, oh, I'll wait for this game to go on sale. Well, when everybody does that, the game doesn't make money in a launch. And now basically Ubisoft has come out and said like, okay, this did not get our expectations. But then the other part of that story is because of all this happening, they actually delayed Assassin's Creed Shadows into next year because of the performance of Outlaws.
Mm.
Because basically, like, they're like, oh crap, we got the message from all the gamers. Like, so they took the season pass out of Shadows, they put Shadows onto Steam, and now they're going to put Outlaws onto Steam. They pretty much put an entirely a whole bunch more people on Outlaws to fix all the bugs. They put a roadmap out. They announced that they're gonna put it on Steam. The big thing with Steam is, well, that's a big deal, is okay, when you're playing on a PC, you have two options. You either have the Epic Game Store or to play your games,
Mhm.
or you have Steam. For whatever reason, Ubisoft likes to be the other guy and only puts their game on the Epic Game Store. I guess they have a deal with them. So people automatically don't like that because people love having their games on their Steam Deck, their like portable system, and people just have, it's like PlayStation and Xbox, right? You have a system you prefer over the other. Most people, 99%, will say they love Steam. If a game goes to Epic Game Store, they kind of hate that. So again, another thing where people were like, "Oh, Outlaws isn't on Steam," or I'm not gonna buy it," or whatever. So you have all these things happening, and now all of a sudden, this Ubisoft is like backpedaling, like all of their skeleton in the closet kind of crap that they pull. They're like reversing everything because of Outlaws. They're like, "Okay, no more
Right.
season pass for Assassin's Creed. We're gonna move that 3 months forward. We're going to." Double down on fixing this game and everything. So it was crazy because it was kind of like a seismic shock that unfortunately Outlaws was the catalyst for this company because basically with Ubisoft, they put out Avatar, the Avatar game last year. That didn't sell well. They put out this X Defiant live service game earlier in this year. It didn't do well. They've been like striking out to the point where this company, it might have some serious consequences coming for it if this Assassin's Creed game doesn't do well. So they basically said, "Oh crap, Outlaws didn't do well. Assassin's Creed, if this doesn't do well, we're screwed. Let's polish Assassin's Creed a little bit more and push it forward 3 months into an area in February that already has a ton of games that are going to be competing for that game's attention now." But I just found it interesting. I was like, you know what, this is very interesting how a Star Wars game, and I was telling you guys this in the group chat. It's like what year am I living in? Because if it was in 2005 and I heard that there was a Star Wars open world game coming out, I feel like everybody on my Xbox friends list would be playing it. Everybody in school at the time would be talking about how they're playing that game. Guess what? When I go to work, when I'm on my friends list, nobody was playing the game. Nobody was talking about the game. And that just is kind of like mind blowing to me that like the first open world Star Wars game like just doesn't do that well. So, enough of me talking. I don't know if you want to say anything about
No,
that.
listen. So like you already know where I'm probably going with this. I've had a very interesting relationship with Star Wars video games since Disney and Lucasfilm took over. Um, and I know you guys were really talking about. I don't know if Ben was playing this. I know you were,
Hmm.
but you did your review on this game when it came out and talked about the issues you had with it, but also like how it was very fun and everything you just talked about, which I get that. But this is why personally I tend to wait to play these games because of the issues that you bring up, whether it's underperforming or the bugs or just doesn't connect with the audience or the extra cagey crap these gaming companies pull with the fans. And again, this is just evident. It's evidence, in my opinion, that the gaming department overall with Disney Lucasfilm when it comes to Star Wars need to be reevaluated because this is another game besides the Fallen Knight or not the Fallen Knight the Jedi Survivor series. This is the only game that these games are not successful
Yeah.
except for that one franchise. Like I mean, if anyone can list to me a game for Star Wars in the last was it, I guess 10 years, I'll say 12 years since Disney made the purchase in
Okay.
2012 that has been successful besides the Jedi Survivor
I know
series.
one.
That's it.
I know one.
Go ahead.
It's a game you play, or at least you used to play. Galaxy of Heroes.
Oh yeah, the mobile game. Yes, that's the only. That's it. Yeah, that's the only. You're right. That's it. Like, cause like I told you, I will sit down and play that game every day for like 10, 15 minutes a day, and
You're
like
still playing
I
it?
will eventually get to this. Oh, I still play it all the time, dude.
Holy
Like
crap.
literally, it's like I like playing it. It's a cute little game. Like it's I've had it for a while, so I'm like, well, okay, I'm still unlocking characters when I can, but like that's okay to me. But like, and I know what it is, but these other games that you're talking about, like Jedi Survivor and stuff, like I'll get to those because I see the value in it, and people tell me all the time how they're really, really good. That's great, and they're still replayable. I mean, you guys talk about it all the time when I bring it up. I have friends who are always telling me, "Oh, you still haven't played that yet?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll get to it. You know, whatever." Like real life gets in the way, so I can't just sit down and play games all day. And then right now, my focus have been college football because I missed that game for 10 years. So like, that's been my focus. Um, but going back to my point though, like the gaming department has been straight, and I'm gonna keep it real, straight ass since 2012. Like I think ever since they took that department over, it has not been consistent. And this is just another nail in the coffin. It's like you had Star Wars Eclipse, that great looking trailer, but they never did the game. What exactly? What happened to that game? You know what I'm saying? Like it's like what are y'all doing? Like stop with these games unless you're going to come out with a banger because there's that gaming market is still there clearly. I think a lot of these times these companies that they're using have such a disconnect with the Star Wars fan base, but the Star Wars gaming fan base in particular, they have such a disconnect, and it's like you wonder why people don't trust the property. You wonder why fans get upset about the extra payment stuff when you're charging 19.90 or 99.99 for a game and I have to now pay for X, Y, and Z. I mean, look at the lesson you need to learn from the original Battlefront that came out what in 2016, 2015. Like you really tried to screw people over with that game, and people were like, "We're not paying for this extra crap." It's like I don't know. It's sad that it underperformed. I'm sure it's going to hurt their department. It's going to hurt a lot of people who made the game. But at the end of the day, it's all about the product that you make, and hopefully it's successful. And in this case, it doesn't sound like it was successful. Yeah. Right. Right. Chris, can you hear me still? All right. Yeah. Yeah. My. This is live, people. My kid. Listen, it happens. Connection gets all screwed up. But yeah. Listen, I think with this game, hopefully, Lucasfilm and this. What was the company that made it? Was that Ubisoft? Yeah. Hopefully they learn from their mistakes, their failures. I mean, because again, the microtransaction thing's huge. I think that's something that people just never liked. And I'm one of them. Look, I have no problem. paying here or there for some like extra bonus, like for like an unlock an episode here or there, or like a board. But to sit there and say like everything should be paid for within the game, I'm already spending $100. Like for college football, I paid I think like $100 for like the second version of the game, whatever it was. I'm not paying anything else because I want to play the game. I'll play what it like. I shouldn't have to pay three times for X, Y, and Z when it's not nothing special for the game in a lot of ways. And some people don't really see the value in it. And it's like I don't know. And I know it's all about. I know it's a business. I get that, but at the end of the day, make an entertaining game that's going to keep people coming back. I mean, I just think back on me being a 15-year-old kid playing Star Wars Battlefront. Was it 2005, 2006? No, I guess I'd have been 18, 17 when that came out, and how dope that was. And there wasn't no microtransactions then. I'm playing those levels and like, oh my god, this is amazing, and I still play it till this day sometimes. I mean, I still play Super Star Wars on Super Nintendo, bro. Like that should tell you something. Like I think, like I said, people overthink it. They overcomplicate it. Don't do that. Just make the best game, and people are gonna come back and play it. Hmm. Right. Yeah, I agree. No, you're absolutely right. I think you're right. I think maybe they need to look to history and be like, listen, like simple is better. I mean, like I think a lot of people their attention spans are different, and I think if you give them a simple game that you can eventually build upon. So let's say you make a $40, $50 game, and give them something to reward them by, hey, let's give you the secret to unlock stuff. Boom, boom, boom. Also, but if you want to get an extra level or two, excuse me, just pay $10 for three extra levels. Like I remember distinctly with oh my god, it was the Force Unleashed. Force Unleashed, you would pay. I think it's like you pay like $3 for like extra characters. Like you got like five or six like pods. You pay like 3.99 or 2.99 for like those pods if you wanted them. But then if you wanted to unlock like the three extra levels, I think it was like $4. And you pay on like the PSN network, and it would just all be. And I'm thinking, okay, that's perfect because then I beat the game, and I would get those levels later if I wanted them. I had that choice. I didn't have to, but the game was that good where I wanted to buy those extra levels. That's what made it like okay, it was worth it. They made the game good for me. I think they need to get back to that model. Like, stop making these trash ass games. Like, come on, simple as that. Yeah. Actually, that reminds me. Speaking of Indiana Jones, so the one that came out from Microsoft, or I guess for Xbox, is that going on PlayStation? The Indiana Jones game that just didn't come out. Is that going to be on PlayStation? Okay. All right. Okay. See, because I was thinking about getting that, and this is where like this is what I miss about these games. It's and I got another question after this when we're done wrapping this up. But like, I think games like those type of IPs, like Indiana Jones, we need more games like that. We need more games um like let's say for like RoboCop, which I have that one already, which is fire. But like games that are like IPs that, yeah, Rogue City. I love it, dude. Like I'm only like a quarter into it. Like like when I first bought my PS5, I got that when I was murking people, bro. Dude, murking people. Yeah, it's fire, bro. It's I was murking everybody. It's time consuming, but it's fire. But I those type of games that I like because I'm familiar with those properties, and it reminds me of my childhood because I loved those movies when I was a kid. And it's like they didn't overcomplicate the game. It's very simple. Like I'm thinking, oh my god, like I'm going to play this and I'm going to like it and I love it. So that goes back to my point of like the Indiana Jones games, the RoboCop games. Hell, we need a good Superman game, which I know they did the Kill the Suicide Squad, but I heard is not that great. Um, yeah, yeah, I heard it's trash. But it's like, why do you mess up these IPs that people will play? Like, I still play like for example, like Sonic games. The old ones are great because they're simple. So if you're gonna bring those IPs back and try to expand them and make them more modernized, don't overcomplicate it. That's what happens with these games, and you wonder why people don't want to play them because you overcharge, you overcomplicate, you don't tell a good story. Yeah. You know how? Yeah. Honestly, yeah, here's the thing. Kill Suicide Squad. Why would I play that one? Because I don't care about the Suicide Squad. Why don't you make a Justice League game? Because then I'll play that. Like give me a Justice League game where I'm playing with all the characters and tell a great compelling story. Like even the Avengers game. As much as I did not super enjoy that game, I understand what they're trying to do. And it was a little complicated, but it's like, okay, they're at least trying something. They need to do it better, but it wasn't a great game, but they tried. But the Spider-Man games are perfect. Like you got the Spider-Man model, use that. Like everyone loves the Spider-Man games. Everybody, like right there. What company makes Spider-Man games? Do you know? Okay, give them Star Wars. You know what I'm saying, like, give them because literally that first Spider-Man game is fire, huh? I know. So I beat the first one. I'm working on the side mission, and I have Miles Morales. It's loaded in the PS5. I want to play that, and I'm going to get Spider-Man 2. That I told you that's the reason why I got a PS5 because of the Spider-Man games and all because like they're that good. Like I was like swearing by those. I'm thinking, okay, like that's how you make a game. Facts. Yeah. So I guess my next question was, and this be a good way to wrap it up. If you had to pick a Star Wars character or like a story to tell in a game, what would you want to be the video game you'd want to actually see and why? Right. Facts. Here's Mhm, mhm. Right. No, I think for one, I think you're absolutely you hit the nail on the head on the nail, whatever how the phrase is. I agree with that because the reason why I got Battlefront 2 was because they showed Luke Skywalker with a lightsaber and we would have played with him. And I was like, oh my god, we're gonna finally get a Luke game where I can actually like wreck shop with Luke Skywalker for a couple episodes or a couple levels. We only got him for one level, unfortunately. You know, when he goes to the temple or whatnot to get the compass. Well, yeah, why don't we get those games? Like, why can't I get why can't I get a post Return of the Jedi game of Luke, fighting a new evil like old boy, Admiral Grand Thrawn, whoever. Like, give me an Ahsoka game, whatever. Because again, I would pay for those games. And to counter argue, you said about well, we kind of got that already. Look at Revenge of the Sith, bro. Like they gave us a Revenge of the Sith video game when the movie came out, and it's fire till this day. You're telling me we never got a Force Awakens game, a Last Jedi game, a Rise of Skywalker game? Like, are you serious right now? Like, we should have gotten that. Honestly, I would have played the hell out of them because they probably would have been better than the movies. So, like, I'm just saying, like, give us the games of those movies, dog. Like, if honestly, if they came back and said, you know what, though, okay, Lego, for example, the Lego games, I don't play them, but y'all, everyone swears by them. Give us a freaking Saga series video games RPG of from Phantom Menace to Rise of Skywalker with like 50 levels. I'll play the hell out of it. Like seriously, could you imagine a big 50, 60 level game from the 9 movies, just the movies, maybe some side missions in there about like, in between like the sagas to kind of mesh them together. Oh my god, that'd be fire. Imagine playing with Anakin and Obi-Wan with Ewan McGregor and Hayden voicing them in the game. Imagine playing the original trilogy characters. Now you won't have Carrie Fisher. You probably have to get new actors for Luke and Han Solo because their voices are different. But you can find actors who can play those voices. You go from a young naive Luke to Jedi Knight Luke, and then you do a couple side in between missions between the sagas. And oh my God, you still have Daisy Ridley, Adam Driver, Oscar Isaac, all of them to do their voices. Oh my bro, sign me up, dog. It might actually make us like the movies better. Yeah. Yes. In the episode, yeah, I'm telling you, I would pay that. Like give me like a 60, 70 level game, dude. I'm locked in. Kind of like the Arkham. It's kind of like the Arkham series. There we go. So facts. Yep. Ooh, yeah. Oh, facts. Mm, yeah. Yeah. No, that sounds pretty BA. That's badass.
All right, all right. So that is gonna do it for us here this week for Outer Rim Transmission 170. So, where can people find you, Milton?
They can find me on X at Milton Weber 7 or on Instagram at Milton7Weber. Like I said, I post on Instagram. I post a lot of like funny memes, some workout stuff here or there. Twitter is just me reposting funny stuff about the Eagles or making fun of politics, but because it's all BS in my opinion. But yeah, you can find me on those platforms. Hit me up. Let's have a funny conversation, and I appreciate y'all listening or watching.
Heck yeah. And just subscribe here, youtube.com/Starrapter and Starrapter on all of your podcast platforms. So for 170 for Ben, for Milton, for Chris, aka Starrapter, that's going to do it for us. Thanks for watching. May the force be with you. End transmission.